I'm in the Maritime Museum in Townsville, which is far north Queensland. Behind me in this glass case is a replica of the SS Yongala. Now, this beautiful ship built in 1903 in London, she was over 350 feet long, and she carried both first and second class passengers and tons of cargo. She serviced the east coast of Australia from Melbourne all the way up to Cairns. Now, very sadly, this beautiful boat, back in 1911, she sailed straight into the heart of a terrible cyclone, and everybody was lost. There were no survivors, and she became one of Australia's worst maritime disasters. Now, the reason we are here is because the wreck of the Yongala arguably has more marine life than any shipwreck anywhere in the world, and especially giant fish, huge fish. Today we're going to go and dive the wreck of the SS Yongala. We're about an hour from Townsville. We've got another 2.5 hours to go to get to the Yongala shipwreck. It's a long way out to sea, and it's rough. We're punching into about a 2.5, maybe 3 metre swell, and I'm starting to feel sick.
The Yongala shipwreck represents an oasis in a desert of sand. The steel structure has, over time, become an artificial reef and the home to a huge diversity of marine life.
I have dived many shipwrecks in my life, but none like this. Every square inch of the Yongala's hull is covered in living growth. Soft corals, anemones and sponges all compete for space on this steel wreck. Huge branches of black coral are everywhere. This tragic shipwreck is now a living garden, more densely populated by marine life than any other place on Earth. I'm not the only air-breathing creature here. A hawksbill turtle is busy feeding on invertebrates. Hawksbill turtles have been hunted to almost extinction for their beautiful shells. But this little guy has nothing to fear from me. His problems are the resident sharks. Every time he leaves the safety of the wreck to surface for air, he's vulnerable to attack.
David has encountered a snake far more toxic than any cobra. Olive sea snakes gain some of their oxygen needs through their scaly skin, but like the turtles, they also need to breathe surface air.
I'm reasonably good at holding my breath underwater. My best is around 4 minutes. But sea snakes can hold their breath for hours. Specially designed valves in their nostrils shut out the water when they dive, and their perfectly designed paddle-shaped tails allow these marine reptiles to swim with little effort.
Olive sea snakes can produce 15 milligrams of highly toxic venom, and only 2 milligrams can easily kill a human. But this snake is busy. He's hunting for small fish and eels, totally ignoring David's presence. Many of these magnificent reptiles are preyed upon by seabirds when they surface for air. Fatal bites on fishermen often occur when the frightened animals are caught in nets, but attacks on divers are rare. In Australia, anti-venom has been developed, but with David's gentle handling, there'll be no need for snakebite treatment.
It seems every cargo hold, every cavity in this old ship is the home to a monstrous fish. Numerous species of huge groper are everywhere. Their spotted and mottled skin perfectly matches and camouflages them to the wreck. These powerful fish tend to ambush their prey, gulping any creature they can fit into their gaping mouths. They're not happy with my rude intrusion into their domain. Their erect dorsal spines and aggressive twisting and turning shows me clearly they are territorial. Only months ago, one huge groper here attacked a diver, biting his head. He was lucky to escape with his life.
Other huge fish are intrigued by David's presence. Maori wrasse. Their wide bodies are covered in hand-sized scales. They come in and out of the dim light like ghosts. Their massive size protects them from all the other predators living here. The Ongala is also a home to giant trevally. The interior of the wreck shelters hundreds of these intimidating fish. Attracted by the vibration of the divers' bubbles, giant trevally pour out from within the wreck. Like soldiers, they circle around David. Normally, giant trevally don't harass divers, but a large school of these 150-pound giants will tear their prey to pieces in seconds. Giant trevally behave like piranha when feeding, equipped with keen eyesight and powerful jaws and teeth. They can even bully reef sharks away when feeding.
I can only imagine the constant life and death struggles that take place here on the wreck of the Ongala. This is truly the lair of the giants. Continuing our quest to film big fish, we've come here to Southwest Rocks, which is northern New South Wales. Out behind me, about a mile offshore, is Fish Rock. Now around this rock is a colony of grey nurse sharks. Now some of my friends have told me that recently they've seen an exceptionally large female. This shark could be over 10 feet in length. So we're going to go out and hopefully film this big shark.
Grey nurse sharks are nocturnal hunters and tend to frequent the dark caves and deep rocky gutters during the day. David enters a deep cavern. His filming lights illuminate a twisting, swirling ball of striped fish.
I'm extremely cautious filming striped catfish. I've been spiked by their toxic spines before. Survival instincts causes each individual to swim to the centre of the ball to avoid danger. Most divers are unaware that the toxin in catfish spines can kill humans.
Red scorpionfish or butterfly cod also frequent these caves. It's hard to imagine that these beautiful animals are the close relative of the stonefish. And like the stonefish, their highly toxic spines can be fatal. David has cornered a pufferfish. These creatures have toxic flesh and strange jaws with teeth that can nip off divers' fingers with ease. A giant puffer tore a chunk of flesh from David's arm on a previous encounter. But this shy puffer wants only to be left alone. David has found the unusually large female grey nurse. She's over 11 feet long and in pristine condition. Sadly, her kind are endangered, with many falling victim to shark fishermen. A 9-foot female swims towards David. She has 2 shark hooks embedded in her jaws and another steel hook in her gills. Shark fishermen targeting the wobbegong sharks have caught this nurse by accident and cut her free, but the hooks will kill her. There is only one option. David returns with a lasso. The hooks can only be removed in the boat. The noose is placed over the shark, and David and his friend Noel pull the rope tight. The fight begins. Grey nurse are not normally aggressive, but this shark believes it's being attacked and will bite anything that it can reach. A slashing bite from such a large shark could easily be fatal. The divers are also risking the dreaded bends. While fighting an angry shark on a rope, the ascent rate cannot be controlled, and the extreme exertion can agitate nitrogen bubbles in the blood. The snapping shark is dangerously close to the divers as they drag the angry creature towards the boat. David scrambles on board and pulls the shark into the boat. He then jumps on the shark's back to stop it from thrashing around. Fishermen have lost hands and arms trying to remove hooks from sharks. This exercise is highly risky for all concerned.
My concern is how fast we can remove the hooks and stopping the shark from snapping a hand off one of my mates.
With hooks removed, the shark swims down into the depths, not realizing its encounter with David has saved its life.
These are the shocking hooks that we dug out of the mouth and the gills of that grey nurse shark yesterday. The big problem I see for grey nurse, even though they're a protected species in New South Wales, is that professional fishermen target the wobbegong sharks with set lines and hooks like these. And often, accidentally, the grey nurse get caught as well, and many of them die.
David has travelled to Western Australia to dive Ningaloo Reef, the longest fringing reef in the world. This pristine coral reef literally teems with life. Huge schools of fish swirl in their thousands on Ningaloo. But like most coral reefs of the world, Ningaloo is suffering the effects of the shark fishermen. Their hooks often kill endangered species, like the giant cod. David's quest is to film the sharks of Ningaloo and to attract the rare giant cods to his cameras. He also hopes to encounter the largest fish to ever exist.
What I'm doing here is we're letting the tyres down so we can back the boat right into the water. On this soft sand, we'd bury the truck if we don't let the tyres down.
Ningaloo has large populations of turtles. These marine reptiles attract tiger sharks that often hunt the reptiles in the shallow lagoons. Following a huge tiger shark in a rubber boat is not recommended.
These tiger sharks come inside the lagoons to hunt for turtles, and they're very good at it. Their jaws are so powerful they can come up and crunch straight through the shell, no problem at all. Look at him. But too many of these sharks are being taken out of Ningaloo Reef, and we just don't know what the real ramifications of that are. They should be protected the same as grey nurse and great whites. Every now and again you can see a flash, and the flash is a big trevally that's sitting in the pressure wave of this big shark. It's quite amazing. Here you've got a big tiger shark and a trevally, which of course the tiger shark can be quite dangerous, and the trevally is just riding in the pressure wave of the tail. The easiest way for me to find out what predators are living in this part of the reef is to bait up, because the chum and the vibration of a struggling fish will attract the predators in through the passageway. And we'll find out what sort of sharks live here. White tips, black tips, grey sharks, and even bronze whalers. They all live on the outside. It'll be very interesting to see what we can attract. The only problem is spearfishing here is quite dangerous, because once I've shot a fish, if you attract a large shark like a big grey or a bronze whaler, he can come in quickly, and that's very dangerous for me. So I've got to get the spearfish out of the water very quickly. That's not always easy. Paul's job is to film me getting some bait fish for the sharks. Now you realise, of course, if anything goes wrong, it's every man for himself.
Of course, and I'll be the first one back up here.
If a shark bites your legs off, don't come running to me for help, all right?
This is an ideal place for David to collect the baits he needs for his research. By taking only a few of the most prevalent species, David's activities will not harm the ecology of the reef.
Sharks are right there.
A lemon shark tears a sweetlip from David's spear.
Shark took the fish straight off the spear.
whitetips and the more dangerous grey sharks are now arriving. The vibrations of the struggling fish, coupled with the smell of fresh blood, stimulate the sharks to become more and more bold.
You're not gonna let go. Yeehaw! Ah, you bugger, you got it. I've lost the last 3 fish. The sharks, I dive down, shoot a drummer, and the sharks take them off the spear.
With enough fish in the boat, it's time to call it a day and come back tomorrow to continue his research.
We've got 2 dolphins riding the bow wave. I think they like the rubber duck. Must feel good. Might be just exactly the right pressure wave that they like. No matter how many times you see dolphins, you just never get sick of them. There's just something magic about them. Shallow, mate.
Sure is.
You know, there's neap tides, high tides, mid tides and low tides. And what we've got today is what you call a pain in the arse tide. Because it's so shallow, we're going to have heaps of trouble getting the boat out. The ocean's too rough today to dive, so we've come up into the hills to do a bit of exploring, and we've found a really beautiful gorge. So we'll drive up as far as we can, then we'll walk in and see what we can find.
The coastal ranges of Ningaloo were once inhabited by tribes of Aborigines. Sadly, their nomadic life of hunting and gathering no longer exists, and many of the animals they once shared their lives with are now threatened with extinction due to the introduction of feral animals. But at least this coastal range is undeveloped and its timeless beauty intact.
Just up this gorge here is a little wallaby. They're becoming quite rare, these rock wallabies now, because all through this mountain range are feral goats. Feral goats cross-feed, and these little guys die because they starve to death. But he's just up there in that corner. You're probably wondering why I'm scratching around in the dirt. See, this whole Cape Range runs parallel with the coast here. It runs parallel with Ningaloo Reef. And along this range it's just honeycombed with caves. And many years ago, the Aboriginals lived in these caves. And what I'm looking for is in these caves, especially this one, the whole roof is smoke. You can see where the smoke has coloured the roof black. So what they've done, they've come up from the plains, come up from Ningaloo, and this is where they would have cooked their food. So I'm looking to see what they used to eat. And you can see here we've got clam shells. which is something they would have got. They would have got plenty of clams from down at Ningaloo. And what they would have done, they would have gone out, done some spear fishing, spearing rays, catching turtles, killing kangaroos, bringing them up into these caves, and this is where they cooked them. Putting these shells right back where they belong, back into the midden. Cover them back up again. Because all these caves are sacred places to Aboriginals. When we're filming underwater, lighting is absolutely so important. What I use quite large 100-watt lights which light up the different subjects, especially sharks. And the beauty about using Paul as my buddy, we've got an added light source. Can you take your hood off? See this shiny head? When I need more light, he takes his hood off, and the sun, I can just angle his head slightly and it reflects the light back onto the subject. So it's an added bonus having Paul as a dive master.
The seas are calm again, and now it's time for David to carry out his research. He ties his fish baits to numerous coral heads and waits for the smell to be carried out to deeper water. Sharks can smell 1 part of blood in literally 1 million or more parts of seawater. As the sharks track up the scent line, their other senses come into play. Sight helps them zero in on the baits, but also sharks have a special network of jelly-filled canals in their head called the ampullae of Lorenzini. This sense allows the shark to detect the weak electrical stimuli from the muscle contractions of all living animals, including humans. Because the baits are dead fish, the only electrical field near the bait is David's. And the sharks are keen to investigate the man with the camera.
By keeping my heavy camera between me and the sharks, I can keep relatively safe. But with numerous sharks arriving, I'm kept very busy. White-tip sharks tend to grab the baits and then twist and shake until their serrated teeth saw through the ropes. Although I feel calm, it's hard to keep my heart from racing. I can feel the adrenaline surging through my body. White-tip sharks are predictable, but now the incredibly fast grey sharks are beginning to circle the baits. These sharks are becoming territorial. Behaviour similar to a dog with a bone. I do not trust grey sharks to behave themselves. Arching of backs with downward-facing petrel fins are all warning signals of an impending attack.
The white-tip sharks, twisting and thrashing, continually stir up the sandy bottom, making each feed almost impossible to film. Again and again, the sharks generate mini sandstorms. The suspended sand is causing havoc with the visibility. When sharks can't see clearly, they're more likely to make mistakes, and David needs to be able to watch out for any more territorial attacks from the greys. Knowing when to abort a dive can mean the difference between life and death. It's time to leave. The baiting up of the passageway in the reef did allow David to record some of the local sharks feeding, but unfortunately, no giant cod were attracted to his baits. It's time to try another location.
We've now, for the first time, just anchored on the back of the reef. That's the open ocean side to Ningaloo. You can see Ningaloo runs up and down behind me, 260 kilometre reef. Now what we're doing now, we'll take our fish down, our bait, and we'll drop down on the edge of this big drop-off in deep water. We'll probably go down about 80 feet with 2 camera housings and the fish. Be very interesting to see what species lives out here. This is getting very exciting.
The ocean side of Ningaloo drops over 100 feet to the sand. Overfishing and professional shark lines have greatly depleted Ningaloo of its populations of giant cod. David hopes by baiting up the deeper reef walls, he can attract some of the now rare giant fish. Within minutes, a huge moray eel tries to drag one of David's baits into its lair. A strange tug of war between David and the eel takes place. All that's left for the eel is a cloud of blood.
Not a single giant cod is attracted to my baits. Just 2 white tips come in to feed. Hand feeding these guys is fun, but I'm not attracting the fish I want.
David descends into the deeper caves at the base of the reef wall in search of giant cod. Swimming through a deep cavern, David encounters a large school of razorfish. It seems they've been herded into the cave by schools of snapper. As David's lights illuminate the fish, they close around him like a swarm of insects. Then what David has been searching for arrives. A huge giant cod, 2 or more 100 pounds in weight, returns to its lair. Locally named the potato cod after the potato-sized blotches on its body. This huge fish is greatly interested in David. It follows him into open water. David flaps a gloved hand. This stimulates the fish. And an underwater ballet begins. Potato cod, like most gropers, ambush their prey, waiting behind coral or hiding in caves until something tasty swims by. With a quick lunge, the cod will grab the unsuspecting fish. The potato cod's head and mouth are so large, it can pull in its prey in one huge gulp. Unfortunately, large cod are solitary fishes and generally inhabit one cave for long periods of time, sometimes years. This behaviour and the fish's relatively slow growth rate means they are particularly vulnerable to overfishing.
Over the years, I've seen many reefs become totally devoid of these powerful creatures. Most fall victim to the shark fishermen's lines. Unless shark fishing stops, these magnificent fish will become extinct in Australian waters. Sadly, I know if I come back here in 5 or 10 years' time, this playful giant will be gone.
As the divers head back towards shore, a juvenile whale shark is sighted. David quickly joins the extremely rare animal. This encounter is promising. With juveniles around, maybe David will get his chance to fulfill a lifelong ambition, to swim with an adult whale shark. But the wind is picking up. A search for an adult whale shark will have to resume tomorrow.
Now what we have here is a very, very special animal. They grow quite large. We'll just see if we can get him up in the shallow water. There he is. He's a little adult cuttlefish. I'll just hold him up, not for too long. Look at that little bloke. That's a little reef cuttlefish. And you can see the siphon underneath, which they use for pumping water out to propel themselves like a jet. And you can see quite large eyes. In the middle of these little arms here, these little tentacles, is a very, very sharp beak. And see how he's gone white? They change colour, and they can change colour quicker than a chameleon lizard. So they're very, very quick to change colour. Highly intelligent animal. And we'll just let him go. Look at him changing colour again. Look at him, isn't he beautiful? And they catch fish with those tentacles. And let him go. Now you watch him go. Off you go, mate. In my life, I've been lucky enough to dive countless places around the world, from the Indian Ocean, the Maldives, all the way up the Great Barrier Reef, Solomon Islands, New Guinea, right out to Tonga, all over the place. But I've never been lucky enough to film and find an adult whale shark. A shark that can weigh in excess of 30 tonnes and can be longer than 40 feet in length. Yesterday we did find a juvenile, maybe 12 feet long, only half a kilometre off Ningaloo Reef. Today the conditions are much better than yesterday, and we should be able to venture further out to sea and hopefully today film the biggest fish in the whole wide world.
A huge female whale shark is found, the largest species of fish to ever inhabit the earth. It's not a warm-blooded whale, but an enormous shark. This huge specimen weighs in excess of 15 tons and is more than 45 feet long. Its jaws are over 4 feet wide and lined with bristles that trap small organisms like krill, plankton, small fish and squid. Amazingly, this shark can process thousands of gallons of water every hour and live 100 years or more.
My first impression of this monster is how well it blends in with the ocean. The spots and shades of green and grey perfectly match the shafts of light filtering down from the surface. The shark seems to be swimming slowly, but I'm kicking so hard in its wake. I feel like I'm swimming with a creature that belonged on the earth in the age of the dinosaur. I wonder how many miles this ocean traveller has swum in its lifetime. How does this huge shark ever find a mate? And most of all, how deep can she dive? All questions we cannot answer. All we know is some whale sharks come to Ningaloo every year. I'm so concerned about the future of these massive sharks. They cannot breed until they're around 30 years of age. And even though they are harmless to humans, fishermen in Indonesia and Taiwan slaughter the sharks for their meat. These ocean navigators do not belong to any one race. No country has the right to drive these animals to extinction. The whale shark represents the largest fish to ever inhabit the earth. It is an absolute tribute to nature and to millions of years of adaptability and evolution. It must be protected at all costs. This is called ghost crab catching. Get the crab! Round him up! He's after you, bud.
You grab
Give
him.
you a big bite.
You grab him.
Okay. I'm gonna get you, mate.
Grab you up.
I know he will. He goes straight through a fingernail. Got him.
That's using your hat. He's annoyed at you.
Give me the hat. Uh-huh. No. I gotcha. There we are. That's a beautiful ghost crab. Aren't they beautiful things? Now those little white nippers, believe it or not, can punch straight through a fingernail. So I'm not going to give him mine. But what I am going to do is chase Paul with it.
Don't be stupid.